Okay, well, hopefully things are set up better this time. They have been fighting me every step of the way, but we can all hope that things are working better this time. Maybe, maybe if my lip sync didn't so messed up. Anyway, yeah, give this a little bit more time. Um, but otherwise, I'm going to be drawing Persona 3 characters because my obsession with Persona 3 knows no end. And also, we're very, very, very close to reload. So, that's fun. I have I have issues with the choices that we already know they made with reload, specifically regarding the answer and the portable content. The thing is, if they're remaking the journey, you would think it would make perfect sense to also do the stuff from the female protagonist route in the portable. But instead, they just decided, no, 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 we can't have that. That would make too much sense. That would be too good for the um the community that wanted a definitive version of the game, and they went, by definitive, do you mean excluding tons of content from the other versions? No. Who would have possibly wanted that? Yeah, Reload is adding a lot of stuff to the journey, which is great. I love that. I like what we've seen so far. I like getting more interactions with the protagonists and the characters that you can't social link with, but still, getting to see more of them does not negate the fact that they just decided, no, 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 you don't get all of the content. You wanted a definitive version? Get real. You can't have that. Why would you ever even think such a thing? You know, it's a little infuriating, I'll be honest. But at the end of the day, I don't control what the people at Atlas do. If I did, it'd probably be worse. Well, no, if we did, then we'd at least have a definitive version of Persona 3. Everything else might have been thrown to the wayside, but that's besides the point. All we care about is Persona 3. All I care about right now. Uh, the other game that they've announced, I can't remember its name because I don't have a memory that works. It's only filled with Persona 3. But the other game also looks good. I actually am also interested in that one. Um, but still, that is besides the point. I only care about Persona 3, which is the point, and it will always be the point. Why am I... Oh. Okay. Where can I put chat that I'll actually fucking see it if someone is there? Which was my problem last... Well, it was not the problem last time. Everything was a problem last time. But there was a very... If I spoke English, I'd be so much more powerful. Prominence issue of not being able to see stuff when it came up. And I would see it ages later, and by then, people will be gone. I also think I forgot to add chat to the stream. I forgot last time, but I definitely forgot to add it to the stream. For the drawing side of things. So that's a thing. Also, we're not animating this time, so it should be a lot better. It should have a lot less issues. My movement has stopped. Why'd that happen? There we go. Okay, it's fine. That was weird. The model has decided not to move. Hey, Vitushio, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that when I have you in the background? Weird. Seems to be okay now. Don't know why that happened. You're gonna have to bear with me for a second. And it's frozen again. Oh. I guess not. Okay. We're gonna have to, it's just my mouth movements that are fumbling. Hold on. Live troubleshooting. What is happening? This on, because that's... Oh, you know what? It isn't. Maybe that'll help. Maybe the microphone will help. Who knows? The real question will be when I switch away from it. I'm frozen. That's great. It's frozen again. Oh no, that's just... It was just straight up frozen. It wasn't even related to that. Okay. Okay. Now, I don't know why I keep doing that. I'm not moving very much, so it's really strange. Now, oh, don't get stuck like that. It's the worst. It's the worst one. It's the worst place to get stuck. Okay. Well, okay. Why did that happen? Why am I behind the... There we go. Am I behind that's the window capture? That was weird. And gonna put chat somewhere. Oh, there it is. It's so small. I don't know where to put this. You don't... Gonna get blocked no matter what I do, unless I put it on. Chat just gets put on top of me. We'll choose a different turn of phrase. Watch me move this around. It won't really be visible over here. That's a problem. It might. Actually, it'll be fine. This sword goes on top of the layers. Either way, it's not doing its best. So, I'm just gonna have to live with that. Am I frozen again? Am I? No? Okay. Great. I can't see the movement. It's so small. It's so small. I could make it less small, I guess, on my screen, but I won't. I will not be doing that. Okay. Hopefully, things should work better this time. I did actually forget to get the reference images up, but that's fine. We'll be doing them one at a time anyway. Starting, of course, with the protagonist. Except we'll be starting with the one who's been excluded. Whoops. Okay. Just making sure that everything is correctly visible and not just in the abyss. Well, this time I can't hear myself, so I just have to hope that it sounds better. Will it? Probably not. I am using a different microphone, one that is not actively falling apart, so it will not fall this time. There will be no dropping of the microphone this time. Okay. This is still in a place where it's barely visible to me. If I put this here, it will be in my way, but I will be able to see it. Okay. It took so long to set up. Also, I started a little bit later than anticipated. But it took so long that my tablet has turned off. It's decided, oh, you're not doing anything? I am. It's just takes forever. It's been recommended that if you're streaming, you should do the sketching first. But look, I can make lines and they aren't super angular. So we're doing great this time. We're net positive, doubled in quality. Not doing an animation that has 200 layers really helped. Also, that is done. That animation is finished. However, I still have to do the actual video part of it. So, there's that. Okay. Drop from your shoulders. Theoretically. I said I was going to rant about Persona 3, which I can do endlessly and without delay. The thing is, I think a lot of the things that are seen as general negatives about Persona 3 are actually positives to gameplay as story. I don't necessarily think they're positives from an experience standpoint. Fatigue is kind of annoying. I actually wish we still had fatigue and reload. I like it as a mechanic. It forces you to break up the gameplay more, which is good because the whole problem with the Answers story was that the gameplay was all the same thing. There was no breaks. I don't know what I'm doing. There were no breaks, and that made it really annoying. You know, it was super annoying. Theoretically, I didn't actually play the answer, but I know this is the main complaint. It's like the gameplay is so tedious. And it's like, well, yeah, because the whole thing is that it's just the fights. It's just the fighting sections, which is so not, like, you don't realize how much the other parts of Persona 3 are important to Persona 3. That's not good. Are important to Persona 3 until you get to that point in the answer and you're like, oh, I missed the social sim bits. I missed the social links. Bring them back. But the thing is, the answer could have been fixed. It could happen. They just decided it wasn't worth it, and so they're just doing the journey. But the answer totally could have been fixed if they just changed how it functioned instead of making it just grinding through the same environment over and over again, and then you're getting absolutely nothing. You're getting like tiny little sections of story. But if they made all the story sections, then it would also just be like, well, this could have been a movie, right? But the thing is, what they didn't actually make it any better. It just made it. It's just as annoying. But the only difference is that it's not. It's more annoying because you actually have to play that. If it was just like, that's not right. If it was just like an extended cutscene, it'd be one thing where it's like, yeah, it's kind of annoying. It's in fact pretty annoying. But like, at least I don't have to do anything, right? Whereas the answer as it is, or was, is just kind of annoying because you don't really get a choice. You just gotta go through the whole thing like that, and it's really annoying. That's not true. It's really annoying, and then you're stuck with what, right? You're stuck with a boring experience that you have to sit through for hours to get a tiny bit of story. And while it is, I think, overhated story-wise as well, I don't think that the answer is nearly as bad as it gets treated like it is, because it did not ruin Yukari's characterization. She's grieving. It didn't ruin anyone's characterization, really. You could argue it's a little bit bad for Mitsuru, but generally speaking, no, it's fine. It's fine that they reacted this way. It makes perfect sense, right? The problem isn't that they reacted badly. The problem is that it takes so long and so much to get to even the thesis, not the conclusion of it, because they don't really tell you what the point is for a while. There's small hints, but it's not nearly enough to be worth investing in, especially because the major questions that you're trying to get answered aren't really worth the time that you're spending. It doesn't feel worth it. Okay. I was saying something about Persona 3. I'm always saying things about Persona 3, but the answer could have been fixed if we took the story bit. That's not correct. We took the stories plural. We took the story of the answer and we treated it differently, right? That should be further out, shouldn't it? We treated it a little bit differently, as if it's its own thing that deserves to be like. We treat it like it deserves to be its own story instead of treating it like it's just there so that they have an excuse to sell FES, even though say FPS. I think it should just be FES. Even though, logically speaking, the answer is such a small portion of why you're getting FES, especially because it literally is overall the worst part of FES. From a gameplay standpoint, this is not right. From a gameplay standpoint, I think the answer's story is perfectly fine, and I will stand by that eternally, because the answer's story is very fitting thematically for what Persona 3 is about. The problem is that it's hidden behind the answer's gameplay. It takes so long. Your head is so huge, dear. I don't know why. I can always do that. Always, here's a giant head. Would you like your head to be 30 times as big as it should be? But besides the exclusion of the answer, which I will fight to my dying breath to say that the answer is worth the time that it takes story-wise, not the time that it takes gameplay-wise. Those are two different things. I just want this to be like a headshot. I don't actually need the rest of the body. The answer story is fine. That's all I'm saying. The answer is fine story-wise. I put something in the way. I can't actually see the layer buttons. Hold on. The answer is fine story-wise. Wait. The two reasons are people don't like that it made them dislike characters that they liked before, even though the characterization is perfectly fine. You just hate that people are going through real emotions in your anime game. And then the other thing with the answer is that it's tedious gameplay-wise. But the gameplay aspect isn't the story's fault. It's the setup's fault. The story, as it plays out, would be perfectly fine. It's just that it's set up as if you're gonna spend the next 3 years in here, and it's annoying, right? We all agree it's annoying. But that's not the story's fault. It's the way they set it up, because they wanted you to spend 30 more hours in this fucking game. Or at least like 10. At least like 10 more hours, right? Oh, we're doing that again, okay. But I've repeated myself several times about the answer. The answer is fine. The answer is fine. The issue is not the answer itself. The issue is that they set it up that way for the gameplay so that they could get you to spend more time in the game so that you would feel like it was worth it to buy, another $60 game of the same game like they always do. It probably wasn't 60 at that point. Whatever. However many hours it was. However many dollars it was. However expensive the game was. But but like that isn't the aspect of it that made it worth the extra money at all. It's not. People came there for the, I guess, social link. That's what people wanted the new game for. I don't actually remember everything that was added to the journey. Oh, the extra boss fights? Or was that portable? At any rate, it wasn't. People weren't coming for the answers. Gameplay, that's for sure. they barely wanted the answer at all. And now they don't. And now people are like, I'm sad about the portable stuff, but my fan suddenly sounds like it's going to explode. I'm sad about the portable stuff, but the answer, it wasn't good anyway. And it's like, the answer was good, story-wise. I can't argue about the gameplay, though. The gameplay aspects were, in fact, actually, that's stupid. The gameplay aspects were, in fact, actually bad. I'm not going to argue about that. You're right. You've always been right. It's fine. That doesn't mean you have to hate the answer outright. You can hate that they did the game like that, the gameplay like that, and still understand. Why does your face look like that, sweetheart? Still understand that it isn't that the gameplay is bad. It's the gameplay is bad. It isn't that the story is bad. It's that they made you suffer to get to it, and the story was like okay. Thematically, it was great. But actually, in execution, okay, it wasn't the best. This doesn't look right, but I'm gonna keep going. And I'll figure it out. But as for the portable stuff not being in there, yeah, that sucks. That's not even something I can argue with, right? That's not even like, oh, well, the portable stuff wasn't that great. It's like everyone loves portable. At least everyone loves the PMC content, except for people who take the one bad aspect of one of the social links from her wrote and go, this reflects badly on the female main character's actual characterization. And it's like, no, it doesn't. You didn't pay any attention, and it's also, you don't have to do that. It's not mandatory. Why do you keep doing it if you think it's awful? Well, you don't, because you aren't playing it. You're just acting like it's awful so that you can have the moral high ground. Shut up. Why do you hate women? That's way too high up for that. I keep staring at it and going, something's wrong here. Yeah, something is wrong. The portal stuff, I think, I wonder if it would be more or less annoying if they referenced portable characters, because those characters should technically, they should still exist, right? They should still be in the school or wherever. I mean, some of the social links from there did exist. The thing with portable, and I say this lovingly because I do love portable. The thing with the portable exclusive content is that some of it does thematically seem like it contradicts Persona 3's message overall. It doesn't, but I can absolutely see how it feels like it takes away the impact of some of those moments. The same with Fest, actually. Fest does this too. It can seem like it takes away the impact of some of those moments, because it's basically saying, yeah, but they're fine, right? They're fine. So, did it really matter? Is you know, the thing is, it did matter still. What happened? I did this backwards. Hold on. This is supposed to be behind that. Why did I erase the middle section? I was talking about this. It was gonna, whoops, I hit the microphone. It was going to be, about the thematic aspects being cut short. Okay. I had to do something. Alright. The thematic aspects gave up there. The thematic aspects being cut short. They aren't. Right. Fess saving. I say that, I have to put a spoiler warning on everything. Persona 3 is gonna come out. New people are gonna play it. The Fess keeping one character alive. Same with Portable. Keeping one character alive that, wasn't in the original is not ruining the things of Persona 3. This is because thematically it still works. I think people get caught up in the fact that, this character is supposed to die. That's how the story goes. And the story is about death. So there should not be that many. It's just the 3. So clearly it's messed up the story by letting this character live. And I think the issue with that take, the issue with that assumption is that it requires you to believe that the only aspect of Persona 3's story that is important is that it's about death and that people die. Which isn't true. The thing about Persona 3's story is that it is as much about life as it is death. The two are required for each other. In fact, the aspects of the changes that come from Fess and Portable that people argue ruins it thematically. Your arm is super fucked up, my girl. The aspects of it that people say, goes against the themes or goes against the story, right? The story doesn't change because of that. Like, it doesn't change what the story has been telling you from the very beginning. Your arm is so weird looking. What did I do to you? The problem with it that people have is that, these characters died. The game is about death. So clearly, having those characters live now contradicts the themes of the story. It contradicts what it wants you to get out of these moments. It really doesn't. Because the actions the characters take has not changed. Right? The actions they take didn't change because they got to live. The story didn't warp around to try and justify why that happened. it is a little like, oh, well, that doesn't make any sense in Fess, but it works, right? It's good enough. The reason why it seems like such a problem is primarily because it hurt the original, right? Those moments hurt. Characters dying that you care about hurts. So when it undoes that, it feels like it's saying, "Oh, your pain for that was for nothing," right? Same with the characters in the story reacting the way they do. It's like, "Oh, well, that was for nothing because they lived," right? I don't think that's true. I would ask headphone on peace on, but it doesn't matter. It's just me. Yeah, that's what I want. Okay. Persona 3 story isn't worse when those characters get to live, I think is the main thing. The story isn't hurt by that. Yeah, it feels a little, with Portable specifically, it does feel a little less impactful. With Fess, I think it works. I think it's fine because that the tragedy there is, no, I've unconvinced myself. It works in both. Because the aspects of the story that causes that to happen in both versions is the same. I have to switch this. The aspects of the story. I somehow am losing my voice again. I have not been talking that much. For me, the aspects of the story that are different because because a character lives are the same in both, because thematically the characters that suffer those fates in both versions of Persona 3 and the original versions of those games are going through very, very similar things as characters. Not exactly the same, or else it would be really pointless to have it happen twice. But generally speaking, those characters are the emotional beat, they're going through very similar things. The reason that it works is because the thing that kills them is different. The reason that they die and the reason that the characters are grieving them is different. It feels like something completely different has happened. But also, because the themes of Persona 3 revolve so heavily about death, it doesn't feel unearned that it happened. It doesn't feel like they're doing it just for shock value. They're doing it because of the way it fits in thematically. Which does mean that when you undo that, you really have to make it still be somehow thematically resonant, or else it feels like you just did it because people are sad that their blurbles died. The people are sad these characters died, and you wanted to give them back, despite the fact that the reason that they were sad justifies that. They weren't angry that the character died. They weren't like, this didn't make any sense. This shouldn't have happened. It was just done for shock value, because it wasn't. It was done with purpose in Persona 3. So when you undo that, you really have to justify it, to make it feel like it had meaning, that it was undone, not just that it happened in the first place. And I think that the Fess character revival that will probably be in Reload, I think that one fit more. I love both characters, right? But the thing is that it absolutely was far more fitting in Fess when it was a character that you cared about through other characters and not through yourself. The reason that this character lives in Fess is because the reason that they died. It's really hard to talk about this without actively saying the spoilers. Also, your arms are still fucked up. Your arms are too long. Long arm McGee over here. I think that with Fest, that was too much. It's easier to justify this character living because it doesn't impact you as a player directly. You're impacted. I mean, you can like this character. You can care about what happens to them. I do. But from the general gameplay and character aspect, it's not impacting your character directly. And that was initially also kind of true about the Portable revival character. It was true there too, until Portable, in which you are given the ability to directly interact with this character as someone that you, the protagonist, at least, cares about directly. So suddenly it's not, this character was brought back and it impacts another character more, because you don't even see it happen. You just hear that it happened and why. And it's impacting another character that you care about. But also, it doesn't undo the death of that character, because that character's sacrifice was not done for the sake of, or for the detriment of themselves. It wasn't done because they felt like they deserved to live less. Whether or not that character wanted to live is a different story. And that's, I'm sure, why Fest said, oh, well, they don't remember what happened, they don't remember all this stuff, which kind of thematically means that the death really was an ending for this character, and now the character is someone else, which suits the themes of death as far as the Arcana goes, so it does kind of thematically work with Persona 3. Because that's just endings and not necessarily death itself. Not that death in Persona 3 is purely Arcana based, but generally speaking, that's how it works. The thing with this and the Portable character who goes through the similar thing is, besides the fact that it directly correlates to the protagonist's influence, which I also feel like cuts away from the themes, because it is actively, you are preventing what was supposed to happen in this moment. You are actively halting the what was originally supposed to happen here, right? I'm just gonna do all the sketches in this document. We're gonna pretend I spelled that correctly and didn't put an N in there for no reason. Femininity. And then we're gonna go to a different character. With the it's funny to me. With the character in Portable, who is saved, you have to take specific actions to get that. So it takes away stuff that the answer, go back to the answer again, that the answer actively treated as, I lost track of my sentence and it doesn't really make sense to me anymore. The character in Portable, saving them by doing specific actions makes it feel like, oh, you can avoid death if you take the right actions. Now, you do have to do stuff in Fest for that to happen too, but the thing is, it's so much less direct. If you didn't know going in that that would happen, you don't know that you did anything to make that happen. Right? You don't know that talking to the specific characters at the specific time, whatever, is why that happened. Why would you even think that, right? I should have just used the other sketch. I want them to mirror each other anyway. Well, I'm gonna bring her sketch later back. Just I'll spell it right this time. There we go. Portable's character saving. When you save that character, it is so directly correlating. Is this right? Yeah. It is so directly correlating to the characters, to the protagonist's actions. So it feels like it undercuts. I did the wrong thing there. It feels like it undercuts the impact of the original moment, because, oh, well, if you take the right actions, you can prevent this from happening. Where the whole thing that happens in the answer, no technical spoilers, is that you're basically told you couldn't have prevented this. Nobody could have prevented this. This is the only way this could have happened. I muted. Okay. This is the only way this could have happened. That's what I'm saying. That's what the answer says, basically. You can't have prevented this. This was always going to happen. Did I make this? No. Your eye can be just like no eyes in this picture. No. It's the other way. You couldn't have prevented this. Nothing could have prevented this from happening. I am on the wrong layer again. And because you couldn't have prevented this, etc., etc., when you then play Portable, say you play Portable after you've done the answer, or even if you don't, and you do them in the other order, when you do that, it feels like you've basically said, well, but what if I could? Like, you say, oh, you can't prevent this, whatever, but what if I could actually prevent it? And what if you're wrong? It's like, well, thematically, it doesn't work as well. I don't think that Portable saving the character it does, with regards to it happening in general, is inherently a negative thing. I do think it's obviously not what was meant to happen, because Fess's revival is treated as canonical to what happened in 3 outright. In spin-off games, it's like, oh yeah, that character's alive, right? Whereas with Portable, it is never treated like that. It's canon, because they never want you to think that that's what happened, right? But it wouldn't inherently be a negative thing if it wasn't directly related to your actions, because that character living would have the same, it would feel the same thematically, no matter what. The same as the character in Fest as well. Like, from a purely thematic standpoint, it doesn't inherently cause a problem. The issue, generally speaking, is that it is directly feels like you've cheated death, basically, which is exactly what the story doesn't want you to feel like you can do. The story wants you to feel like, no, you can't cheat death, because you can't. And the point is, live while you're alive, right? Put value on the fact that you're alive. That's why Q1's story, in spite of whatever you say about the Persona Q games, you're right. But when the ending comes along and they're like, the fact that you're alive has value in and of itself. I'm going to save because it's been a while. I haven't actually saved this one. Why is my stream dying? Oh, hold on. I can fix this. Theoretically, I didn't plug the Ethernet in. Ooh, there's so much weight on this thing. Come on. There we go. That should. Hopefully, that will help. We'll see. Should I end it? Why am I recording? Hold on. I'm not trying to do that. Okay. Maybe that'll be fine. Is there actually anyone else present, or is it just the studio registering me twice? We'll see. Okay. I think it's just it registering me twice. Yeah, because it popped up when I opened the studio. It's definitely just registering me twice. Whatever. I will keep rambling about Persona 3 Portable's choices. So with Portable, I think if it wasn't directly related to you doing that social link, it would be fine. Because it has the same aspects thematically that Fest does. Where it's like, oh, this character lived despite all these other aspects. Right? But it's still okay. But it still has impact. Just like Fest still has impact. If you don't actively go out of your way to make it feel like the player is the reason that this character lived. That I've said that is technically true. In Fest, you have to talk to certain people, do certain things for that to happen. But you can argue that happens regardless. You just don't hear about it. That's not the case for Portable, where if you don't actively do that social link, that's not happening. So it's very much like, oh well, the player is responsible for that happening. So it feels a lot more like it's purely ruining it's breaking the story, basically, because it's taking away from what was supposed to happen in that scene, and it's doing it because, oh well, the player wants that character to live, so the player does X, Y, and Z, and now this line is fucked up, and now this character gets to live, which is fine in games in which you have multiple endings, which I guess technically Persona does, but that's not the point. Multiple endings that aren't just a good and bad ending, like multiple endings that fit it, that could be considered canon. Persona doesn't have that. The canon ending is the canon ending, and then the other endings are bad endings, basically. I don't need to fix this. It's a sketch. It's fine. But because you are actively making this a thing that happens because of the player, it doesn't feel like, oh, this fits thematically. Because it doesn't, right? It doesn't fit thematically. It's purely there for the player's sake, which then has the negative effect of now the player's like, well, this makes the impact of the initial scene worse. And that's not something that should happen, right? You don't want people going into your game and thinking you ruined the impact of your own impactful emotional scenes, right? That doesn't happen as much with Fest. I'm sure people are still upset about that, but it doesn't happen as much there because it doesn't feel like the player actively made that happen because it's canon. Whether or not you see it, it happens canonically. It's shown in the spin-off games that are technically sequels. That is what happened. So it wasn't you that did that. You taking those actions just lets you find out about it. Portable isn't like that. Portable, you did make that happen. There's no argument there. You were personally responsible for that happening. Which is why it does very much feel like the whole point is mute. The whole point's taken away when you as the player can just change it, right? Just take the right actions and death is avoidable, which is thematically. Are there birds attacking our camera? Thematic, they're so loud. Thematically, it directly contradicts the themes of Persona 3. P3. Your eyes do not need to be that big. Hold on. Because should I even bother drawing the other eye? I'm not gonna. You only get one eye. You made that choice for yourself. But I mean, the character designers did. Thematically, and this is why I like the answer, is that it's not supposed to be how do I put this? It's not supposed to just be death is unavoidable. We all die. Learn to live with that, which it is, right? That is part of the theme. But the main part of the theme that people who I guess played Persona 3 with their eyes closed seem to forget is that it is also about living in spite of that and wanting to live in spite of that. So you can absolutely have it be thematically resonant to have this character survive. How far down does this go? All the way. It could be thematically resonant to have this character survive if you put in the work to make that feel justified. But by just making it something that happens if you do the right things, it doesn't work. Whereas Fess, it does work because you didn't do anything for that. And this character forgets everything, so it still feels like, oh, this had an impact. And that's stuff that's never going to come back. That's not, oh, they forgot, they'll remember eventually. She won't. Whoops. They won't remember that eventually. that is just gone. What? My phone's making sounds at me. What? Okay. Uh, how do I? Oh, there we go. All right. I guess I can summarize my feelings in the fact that Persona 3 would be the same if this character got to live, right? Hear me out. If this character got to live, Persona 3 wouldn't necessarily change if you did it right. You could still have that work. Just a moment. Okay. Why is this set to... There we go. Alright. You could have that character... Basically, to summarize what I've been saying, you can have a version of the story in which this character lives, and it does not negatively impact the story thematically. That is absolutely possible. The problem is that Fest did that, and Portable didn't. I think it feels, I guess, good if you're the player and you save this character that you love, right? I can't say that that isn't the case. However, that doesn't mean that it works better for that story, because it doesn't. Whereas with Fest, well, I don't think it works better for the story. It does work for the story, just in general. You know, it doesn't hurt the story that it happened. Whereas with Portable, well, I don't think it necessarily hurts the story, except the very ending. I think having that completely change the the way the end plays out hurts the story specifically because it takes things away from another character, and it it takes away the aspect of that where it's like, yes, this character isn't dead, but we don't actually know that they'll ever wake up, right? There's still this aspect of it's still a terrible thing that happened that might never be fixed. And then Portable goes, but it was. But it was, so don't even worry about it. You know? It doesn't matter. Because you get to see it. You get to see that it did in fact, that this character woke up, and not only did they wake up, they woke up directly in correlation with the protagonist with something happening to the protagonist. So it's like, oh, they woke up because of you. It really hurts the aspect of it where it's like death is something that you have to live with, and you have to decide to live. You look fucked up, my guy. She looks fine. What happened to you? Why are your hips so big? So that's my argument about fast and portable and saving characters, etc., etc. I think it could have been perfectly fine if they had saved the characters that they did. If oh, that's fucked up. If it wasn't directly in correlation with something the protagonist does. I think that's the main thing. Is your proportions are super screwed up. My guy, what happened to you? I'm so sorry. I don't know how this happened. Your head's a lot smaller. Maybe that's why. Tiny head McGee over here. So, still hold in silence while I forget what I was saying about Persona 3. It's fine. This tiny little head freaked me out. Okay. The arm's still fucked up though, so I don't know what to do about that. I might just have to outright redraw it. Yeah, because why is it like that? Actually, why did I do that to it? I think that if they had done the portable content, like everyone wanted, that's even more fucked up. I don't know what's wrong with your arms. If they'd done the portable content, that's not how that was. It wouldn't have necessarily been better, but I think it would have probably reminded a bunch of people of how much that one social link kind of fucks things up, right? But I do still think it was a missed opportunity for them to not do it at all. Same with the answer, where it's like people really don't like the answer. They mostly don't like the answer. The gameplay reasons. So they could have fixed that. It's the same with portable. I think they could have fixed that roots issues by just not making the character live, by letting them die, or not having them show up at the end of the game. I think just outright by not am I frozen again? Hold on. By outright okay. Hey, VTube Studio, why are you crashing? by outright not having the characters by not having that character show up at the end, it probably would have at least halved the amount of people that were upset that they made that happen. Hold on. You just sit here until VTube Studio either fully crashes or stops crashing. We'll figure out which. Seems to be choosing to fully crash, but it's just frozen right now. I'd appreciate. I'm gonna actually save the art file while I'm at it. I might have to force close VTube Studio and restart it. I don't know why it's doing this. Close it. You could just look at the empty background for a bit. VTube Studio. Why is the watermark back? Hey. Okay. I paid for this program. Cut it out. Camera. Come on. You need to watch the calibration stuff. Come on, you can do it. You didn't, though. What do you mean? What do you mean? Whoops. I don't need to move you. Turn the camera off. Hold on. Camera on. Come on. Oh! That's not how my face is. There we go. Look, I'm moving again. That's great. We love to see it. Didn't mean to do that. Should have locked the model, but I didn't. Okay. That's... Why is it... Okay. Okay, well, it's good enough. We did it. Close that and it should be fine now. Yeah, I know how the program works. Thank you. Technical difficulties in my stream? No way. At least this time I didn't knock my microphone into the abyss. That's not true. I didn't knock it into the abyss. It smacked me. That's a whole different thing. Okay. I did knock the microphone over though, so that's... I muted it because I knew that would happen. There we go. I was talking about thematic stuff with Persona 3, but I've been talking about that for like an hour. Probably more than that. I don't know. I did start late though. So, that's fine. Should make another thing. I should. Hold on. Little pause. I don't want to leave it in complete silence though, because I don't have background noise going on. What I should have done is just play Persona 3 music in the background. I didn't. That's on me. That's my own fault. I said that and then immediately continued to leave it in silence. Listen, we all make mistakes. Everybody has those days, etc., etc. I want to go on a rant about the protagonists actually while I'm drawing them in a second. I love Tumblr. It hates my guts, but refuses to make my links into links, and it's just sitting there like that, but that's fine. You know what I didn't check, it occurs to me, is this browser window. Hold on, I gotta... YouTube Studio is gonna throw a fit. It's fine. No, it is currently frozen. There we go. Why do you keep doing that? Do I have auto blinking? You want? We're gonna see a little bit more setting stuff. Is auto blinking on? Because it doesn't need to be. I blink enough. That's on it. No, it is not. Nope, they're not. Okay. So the guys are just freaking out for no reason. I think it's just too sensitive to my eye blinking. Okay. We're fine. Once again, everything is fine. Okay. Oh, I drew that line. I was like, what's that line for? I drew it. It's the line to help me figure out the distance. This is the problem, I think. Actually, it's this. This is making you look like you have gigantic hips. Okay. I want to talk about Persona protagonists. I always want to talk about Persona protagonists, actually. They're all I care about. Wow, that's not right. Draw weird. There we go. That makes more sense. means this line is just here for no reason now. So there's arguments to be made about silent protagonists and how much like their character is projecting onto them, which you're expected to do, and how much is actually character. I think anything that is outright canonically supported by actions the characters take without your input and aspects of the character that is directly reflected through other characters. So, what I mean is, things that the other characters say about the protagonist is probably canonically, at least outwardly, true about them. Whether or not that's true for what's going on inside their head is a completely different story. You can say whatever you want. The translation, the localizations of Golden, Persona 4 normal, all the versions of Persona 4 and all the versions of P3 up until Reload chose to use you when the narration is happening. So you did this, or you decided this, or you feel like this, right? Which is not, I believe, not how it is in the Japanese, where it's just the narration is the same through 3 to 5. I don't know about narration in 1 and 2, but I know that's true for 3 through 5, where the narration is actually the same. And the aspect that is different is directly in the localization, where they decided to use second person, you pronouns, in the narration. So you did this, you feel tired, whatever. You had a long day, you want to go to sleep. This is directly something that I feel like is a problem with Persona 5, where because they switched to first person, which is fine because on a technical level it was always in first person. It's just like what the localization had it saying, right? It was always the character's thoughts, so which pronoun used didn't really matter, and it probably makes more sense outright for it to be first person, but that created a problem in P5 where, because your narration is in first person and then you're still getting most of your character's thoughts through Morgana, it really created this dissonance where it's like Morgana will be like, oh, well, you had a long day, I bet you're tired, go to sleep. And it's like, you don't know, you're not in my head, you don't know what I feel. Whereas when it's the protagonist telling you, I'm tired, it's like, alright. Or when it's the protagonist telling you, I'm tired, or the narration saying, you're tired, it's like, alright, fine, that is how the protagonist is feeling. Which I think makes it a better thing when it's in first person, so I appreciate that Reload is doing that, because it does work far better in English for the characters to be like, I feel this way. For the tired aspect, it doesn't really matter anymore, except for on days when you're not allowed to do anything, because the fatigue system is gone, and I think that's actually bad for the game. I think having the fatigue system is good thematically. Or for story, rather. It is a good story, gameplay as story aspect. The fatigue system was. It's gone. They took it away. People don't like it. I think that's a negative. I think at the very least they should have like a difficulty option where the fatigue system does still exist. They're not going to do that. They'll never, because that's not what the masses will want. But I think the fatigue system was a very good gameplay story thing, because it's very much these characters are not able to just do this indefinitely. It's exhausting, right? Yeah, this does look better, doesn't it? It's exhausting for the characters, right? Just a second. The same thing is true of party control. I don't mind them giving us party control again. If you don't want to control the party members, you can set them to automatically do whatever. They have tactics, I think, still. Hopefully, I know there were issues with tactics before where they were like kind of screwed up. You two aren't the same height, are you? Oh well, it doesn't matter. Where it was kind of screwed up, and that's a whole different thing. But overall, I think not having party control made sense as a gameplay, a story aspect. I don't think it matters that much. We've had party control for Persona 3 for a long time now. It made more sense in 4. Like in 4 and 5, it's never really an issue to have party control. In 3, it definitely works to the game's themes, not the themes, the game's story more, that you don't have party control because the characters aren't really as cohesive a unit as the investigation team or the fandom things are. And you feel that, and over time that starts to feel less and less true. But it's kind of hard. You either have party control or you don't. It would be interesting for them to only give you party control at a certain point, but that would mean for each character, but that would also mean there'd be the meta thing where you're not because you're not given party control of certain characters until certain points, it becomes way less useful to use other characters until they have that ability, and then at that point they're severely underleveled, so there's no point. So it wouldn't really work. But you could do that for yourself, I guess. Just be like, I'll only use tactics until they get their ultimate percentage. It'll be great. But the fatigue system is far more, I think, important as a story, as a gameplay, a story thing, where I think you can absolutely get away with having party control. It's not that big a deal. I think taking away the fatigue system does actively hurt the storytelling of Persona 3. No, I don't think it hurts it enough to be like, they should have kept it. It's the worst thing ever. Will you draw lines for me? There we go. It's the worst thing ever that they took the fatigue system away. I hate reload now. I hate reload for completely different reasons. No, I don't. I like reload just fine. I think it's not a definitive version of Persona 3. People keep saying, oh, we're finally getting a definitive version of Persona 3, as if we forgot how upset everyone was that in fact, we're not getting a definitive version of Persona 3. That's why everyone was upset when we found out it was just going to be the vanilla Persona 3 experience. And maybe some of Fess's journey aspects, which it will be because we know they said that. Pretty sure we're gonna get, I guess, social link and stuff. But like everyone was so upset about this, right? Everyone was so upset about it, and then suddenly it's like no, this is the definitive version of Persona 3. It's like, it's not the definitive version of Persona 3. That's why we were all upset a few months ago. Listen, I think Reload is going to be fantastic. I think the additional content is going to be fantastic. I do also think that actively saying, "Oh, we're going to remake Persona 3." A game that people wanted remade primarily because we don't have a definitive version, because both Portable and Fest have aspects that the other one doesn't, that are very key to Persona 3. All of the content in the female main character's route is actually important. Theo's existence is defined there. He's in the spin-off games. If you don't have that content, and new players who are starting with Reload, theoretically, aren't going to know who he is, and then they're going to go into the spin-off games and be like, who the fuck is that, right? Who is this man? And then you miss out on a lot of stuff with the male party members because you don't get social links with them. They're adding more content, but that still means that you're not getting the content with them that is importable. You're getting new content that is exclusive to Reload, which just exacerbates the problem that there's still no definitive version. Okay, Brandon, I'm gonna make shorts on this. How do I put this? There is no definitive version of Persona 3, and that is still the case with Reload. That is, in fact, more the case with Reload, because now, instead of having 2 games that you can debate which one you should play, I made a whole video about this. I don't need to rant about it again, but I am. Instead of having 2 games that you have to argue about which one is the better version to play, Fast or Portable, now it's like, well, technically, Reload is the best version of the game to play, but also, after you do Reload, watch the answer cutscenes. Don't play the answer. Nobody wants you to play the answer, but do watch the answer cutscenes. So watch the answer cutscenes, and then buy Portable too, so you can play that. Or hope and pray that we'll get that content as DLC. We probably won't, or maybe we will. Atlas loves money. That's all they care about. That's all any company cares about. So that's not like a detriment to Atlas. Although caring about the players a little bit would be nice. Like the fact that everyone's like, we want a Persona 3 remake because we want a definitive version of Persona 3, and they went, what if instead of that we just gave you vanilla Persona 3 remade with new content? So technically, yes, this is the definitive version, but also it's not the definitive version. It excludes so much content from the other version that are just now lost. And you say, oh, well, they released Portable, the Portable port, which, despite the issues with that, I don't care that much. The audio thing is the main thing with that. The weird thing where the audio is more crunchy than it was in the original is a problem. But overall, it's fine. I don't care. It's a fine port. I'll play it. I might even play it on stream instead of Reload because I won't be able to afford Reload, and also I think my laptop would die if I tried to stream it. I guess I could record it, which takes less power, and then just post it. But Reload is not fixing the problem, right? And for all of the issues that anyone has with the answer or with Portable's contents, it still super sucks. I was talking about the protagonist. I don't know how I got onto the Reload thing. Oh, I was talking about Reload's good thing where they changed where at least a good thing for Reload in the English version is that they changed the pronouns to first person for the narration, so it's actually the protagonist talking. And so you don't feel like, oh, I'm not tired. And then the game is like, no, you're tired. Take a nap. And it's like, well, or like in P5 where it's like a completely different character is telling you, but you do see aspects of who the main characters, who the protagonist characters in Persona games are, based on what other characters say about them. Like they'll always be like, "Oh, you're a quiet guy," which I don't remember if they ever actively say the female main character is quiet. I'll have to go through Portable again, I guess, to see. I still have to do another playthrough of her for the in the fort. I haven't actually done a playthrough of her at all. I've only watched other people do it, but yeah, it is a better choice to have to have the narration that way, because it's fine to hear about the main character through the other characters. We do it all the time. The issue is when it feels like those characters are talking for the protagonist. Now, sometimes that works. In Persona 4, the fact that typically Yosuke specifically talks for you in scenes, like supposed to be the one saying the things that you're thinking unless you make a dialogue choice, works really well for the ending of Persona 4. But in Persona 3, they don't really do that, and I think it works well both to the story perspective. The characters will say things about the main character. They don't talk for you. They don't say things and then go, "This is what you're thinking, right?" Because it's like, no, I didn't say that. No, I don't think that. But it also becomes a thing where like, how much is, oh, I don't think that, and how much is, oh, the protagonist doesn't feel that way, right? But I think you can pretty clearly tell. I think those are why it's very possible for things with the protagonist, certain choices to feel out of character. I can say this with 5 specifically, where I don't have a reference of it. I don't want to reopen it right now. Where that's not right. I don't know what I'm doing. Look at the original. Yeah, okay. Where you're in a situation where the protagonist absolutely would help their friends, and your only options are to like abandon them, and it's like, what? That's out of character. And not because I, as a player, don't want to do that, because it's consistently shown that that's not the kind of character this person is, right? But because it's played for a gag, it's perfectly fine. You're not that. Sonic? She's not even the blue one. Why is she Sonic now? I'm just gonna sketch over this, I guess. But in Persona 3, you don't typically have that. And a lot of the things where it's like, would the protagonist do the things to end up in this situation are actively manufactured by other characters. Like, we all know the school trip scene, right? If you don't know, you don't know. But at least in that scene, it's like the other characters take the actions to get you there, and you're like, well, I don't want to get in trouble for something that isn't even my fault. And so you actively make the efforts to avoid that, and you probably fail. Most people fail. It's fine. We all fail sometimes. Whereas, when you're put in situations and your only options. No, that sentence doesn't make any sense. We'll start that over. Whereas the protagonist's choices that directly contradict what maybe you as the player would want to do, that do feel in character, are often less annoying. Because it's like, yeah, I might just peace out in this situation, but that's not how the protagonists of the game act. And it's a reason I'm attached to most of the Persona protagonists. I don't know anything about Persona 1, I'll be honest. But even Persona 2, both Persona 2 games, you can form attachments to the protagonists because they have personalities of their own that are very evident throughout the game. Not just in dialogue choices, but in the choices that you don't get to make. That the protagonist is making anyway. Like, agreeing to join any of the potential groups. The protagonist, like, yeah, you may even get a dialogue option to be like, yeah, sure, or oh, I don't want to, but yeah, okay. The protagonist is going to make that choice either way. That is a character aspect of them. Sure, you could say, oh, well, that's just how the game is made, or else there wouldn't be any game. Same with, like, the social link thing. Oh, well, yeah, the characters go out of their way to do this for the social links because that's how the game is set up. But you have to have a character in which doing that would be believable for them, and Persona does. I say this with Persona 4. You go out of your way to, with all of these characters that are, like, going through the worst parts of their lives, probably. Or, like, incredibly socially lonely and going, well, you're not now, I'm gonna be your friend whether you like it or not. And that really feels like a character thing for the protagonist of that game, more than it feels like a gameplay thing. Like, yes, it is a gameplay thing, but it also very much, do both uniforms have the zippers, or is it just the, I think they both do, and I also think it's on this side, right? Yeah. It is a gameplay thing that these things happen. Like, getting into social links is a gameplay thing, but as a character thing, it says something about which characters you either choose or are forced to interact with. I think Persona 3 gets a lot of shit, vanilla Persona 3 at least, for having worse social links, or worse characters in social links. The social links themselves are generally fine, but despite having some of the best characters, I mean, to have social links with in vanilla Persona 3, like, if you know, you know, which characters are the best characters in Persona in general that are Persona 3 social links, or characters that are very likable and maybe don't get as much credit as they deserve. But the thing with Persona 3 is it also has some of the most annoying characters. I mean, the obvious examples are always there. The Moon social link, Kenji as well. But the thing with that is, it does still, it's kind of, Persona 3 is kind of better for having some of the worst social links, or the worst characters to be in social links, and some of them get more shit than they deserve because in their social links they actively develop away from the aspects that you dislike. The Moon social link, like, the first couple ranks of that is miserable, but it is because of that social link works in the end. The problem is that because it takes multiple links to get there, you don't care enough about these people to get to that point, right? Like I don't want to hang out with Kenji, so I'm never even gonna get to the moon social link, right? A lot of people feel that way. And then you get to the moon social link, it's like, well, I don't like this, right? I don't want to hang out with this fucking guy. Like, character-wise, the characters make perfect sense and they thematically fit Persona 3 very well. And it also fits this aspect of you're in this environment, you don't really, you are very limited on your options of people to spend your time with. And some of those people are gonna suck. And you get to make the choice. Am I going to push through that and try and get to know these people? And maybe I will end up liking them, or maybe they'll grow. And they do. Whereas 4 and 5, it's generally like all of these people are likable from the offset. For the most part. I'm trying to think if there's anyone in. Well, 5, the fortune telling. 5 has the opposite issue. The social links are too good to start with because you know that you're getting something out of these. They have gameplay uses outside of just being social links for your persona levels and unlocking the ultimate personas. They have other gameplay aspects, which causes the issue of it feels very transactional to spend time with these characters more than the other games do. And 4, I think, has a very good balance between characters who are annoying when you first meet them, and then you get to learn about them, and even from the offset, you can see if there's something else going on here. For the most part, it's kind of hard to see what's going on with I to start with, but for the most part, that's true. And then otherwise, most of those things you see from the offset that there's something else here, but you won't get to actually see what that is for a few ranks. But you get that feeling to start with, so you never feel like I'm hanging out with this person because from a gameplay perspective, I know that I'm going to get something out of this. But as a character, would this character spend time with these people? It feels a little bit like that in Persona 3. But I think that is a positive overall. Because your options are incredibly limited. And I also think it says something about the protagonist that they still make that choice, right? Now, obviously, as a player, you make that choice. It wouldn't happen if you weren't making the choice. But from a character's perspective, the characters made that choice, right? Canonically, most of these social links at least happen a little bit, right? You at least hang out with these people a little bit. You're expected to, which means that from a character perspective, the protagonists are making that choice. The protagonists are willing to hang out with these people in spite of all the things that annoy us as players about these people. Maybe in spite of the fact of the things that annoy them as people about these characters. But it's still happening. And the characters are still bonding, and then they end up being overall very important to the um, to the characters. You're missing aspects of your jacket. Uh, what fucking shape is this? Oh, I can't see it here. I gotta get the yellow reference up. I like using the Q references because they're easy to look at the whole. At the whole thing at once. Um, do I have the other reference somewhere I can actually see it? Come on, you gotta be in here somewhere. Apparently not. You'd think the number of times I've drawn the protagonist I would remember what their fucking jacket looks like. I don't. Is it 2? Or is it just 1? Oh well. I will be. Oops. I will be right Okay, there we go. 2 more hours in this. It's 2 more hours of me ranting about Persona Protagonist. Oh, actually, hold on. I'm gonna turn my heater off. It's really hot in here now. Sorry about this sound. Okay. Hopefully that's okay. I couldn't mute it while I was doing that. Whoops. Okay, there we go. Oh, my hair is stuck. Okay. Is the model moving or did it completely lose me? It's moving a little bit, but it's not. Okay, there we go. I think it's fine now. So the persona protagonist as characters, I think you can pretty well define them by, I mean, you know, there's a saying of like, there's a saying of like you can judge people by their friends, right? Who they choose to spend their time with. I think that's sort of evident in the protagonist based on like who they choose to spend their time with. Now, you could say that's a negative for Persona 3. I don't necessarily think that is, because a lot of it feels like like choosing to spend your time with these people in spite of the obvious, because you see something else, right? There's also an aspect of with the protagonist, and I say this about all of the Persona protagonists, I think that they are, by the aspects that the game forces you to see of them, all, at least, I don't know about one, but I know that in the actual game, the Persona 1 protagonist doesn't get as much characterization. But then, you know, there's the Persona 1 manga. I don't know that much about Persona 1, but 2 and onwards, I know enough about that I can say with certainty that they also fit into this aspect where the Persona protagonists are pretty inherently kind people, even when they're mean, because you don't have to be nice to be kind. Those are two different things. You heard the saying, like, I don't know if you, most people have heard, like, it's the thing about, like, regional things, where it's like, in some regions, they're nice, but they're not kind, versus being kind, but not nice. No matter what dialogue options you choose for the protagonist, because you can be incredibly rude in very different ways depending on which game it is, which I also think adds to the protagonist's characterization, where it's like, this is how this specific character acts, this is how the specific protagonist acts when they're being an asshole. Right? So the rude options even are still different based on the character. But inherently, by virtue of being the protagonist of a game that requires so much of you to care about other people, to care about the other characters, forces the protagonist to care about other people, and that's a major aspect specifically with Persona 3, where in spite of whatever dialogue options you choose, the protagonists are characterized as being incredibly kind, even when you play them as rude people, because they've still made these choices that you have no control over that impact that. Yes, you can choose not to do these social links. You're still uh, forced to bond with your party members outside of social links. That's the case no matter the version you're playing. And that'll be, you aren't forced to do the extra stuff in Reload, but Reload gives you even more ways in which you spend this time with these people outside of social links, including the party members that don't have social links. But also, to that end, even when it is a character who you have social links with, there's still stuff outside of those social links that you have to do. I guess originally didn't have a social link, but her character was still so integral. The protagonist is by default forced to have a bond with her, or you as a player are by default forced to have a bond with her because the protagonist does, no matter which version you're playing, whether or not she has a social link. There are other aspects of these characters that are true whether or not you make the choice for them. And those aspects are generally the things that prove their characterization. Even the dialogue choices, you get to choose which of these options you're going with. You get to choose the varying degrees of nice you are to the other characters. But the aspect still remains that these characters are still. There should be another line because there's the actual line for the hedgehog. That these characters are still characters in themselves. So the dialogue options are still limited based on what the protagonist would or wouldn't say. Like, yeah, you can decide how mean you want to be, but the way that manifests is still dependent on the character themselves. Like the options to be mean in Persona 3 when you're playing as the female main character versus the male main character are actually different, and their dialogue options overall are different. So even and it's not just in stuff that changes because of gender, they are different characters, and the way that they are characterized is different outside of the player's choices. It isn't just the things you choose that change, which impacts the fact which supports the fact that they are, in their own right, characters with their own feelings and motivations, etc., etc. And those characters are generally fairly kind. That's why Persona 3 ends the way it does. You can't have a character like that has an ending like Persona 3 does. No spoilers. Without the characters caring, without them having that aspect of themselves. No matter what dialogue options you choose, and in fact, no matter what the character themselves says throughout the game, because the classic for the Persona 3 protagonist is like, oh, I don't care. That's the character's like catchphrase. But the actions in the game, no matter what choices you directly make, if you go through with, say, the bookstore couple's social link, those actions and the actions you take in order to continue that social link imply a level of caring, no matter what dialogue options you choose, no matter what the characters would say themselves, you have to care in order to do that. You have to care in order to go through with those things. The same is true of a lot of things in the game. It's like the characters of the protagonists have to care in order for this to happen. In order for this to be something that happens, the characters have to have aspects of themselves that would lend to that. So by virtue of being the protagonist of the Persona 3 game, the characters have characterization through the actions that you don't get to make choices about. They have characterization through the fact that they are the protagonists of these games. They have to be fitting for the themes of the game. In order to do that, they have to have characters of their own. They aren't just vessels for the player. They are characters in and of their own right. It is because of aspects like that. It's because of that it's not that when people say that the Persona protagonist characters are purely based on player choice, you're not paying attention. Like, you played the game with your eyes closed. The Persona protagonists have plenty of character. They have tons of character embedded in everything about them that isn't just things that the player has chosen to do. Like, yeah, sure, the player can make the choice whether or not they hang out with this person on this day. The player can't make the choice for how the game ends. I mean, you can choose the bad end. Don't start that argument. Yes, you can choose the bad end. That is still resonates. It still resonates with the characterization of the protagonist even making that choice, because it is. You can talk a little bit about the bad ending without spoilers, and it's really difficult. You make that choice with the idea that it is kinder to the other characters. The character who gives you that option is making that choice, is asking you to make that choice because it is the kinder option, theoretically, to not let your friends, to not let these people that you have grown closer to over the course of almost a year in game suffer, right? Now, this is the bad end, quote unquote, but really, thematically, it isn't directly a contradiction of the themes of Persona 3. Now, obviously, it's not the correct ending. It's not what thematically is the most fitting for the characters, any of them, but it is thematically within the line of what the characters' thoughts and feelings are, right? What the characters are trying to do. Now, obviously, this shouldn't be the outcome. That's why the true endings exist. The true ending of Persona 3 exists because thematically it makes far more sense, but it is not directly a contradiction of themes, it's just a different exploration of that. And the protagonist's characterization is the only reason it's possible for both of these outcomes to still feel impactful, to still feel like they matter. Because the protagonist would not make these choices. In fact, they would not make specifically the good ending choices if they didn't care, if they didn't have the aspects of their character that are incredibly and unequivocally kind people. Like, yes, you can say whatever you want about them being assholes, depending on which version of which protagonist you're playing and how you make those choices. But they still have made the choice to do the thing that requires far more effort and far more will and kindness and willingness to put yourself in harm's way for other people and potentially suffer or be miserable because of it. Whereas if the character was just a vehicle for the protagonist or for the player, yes, you would probably still do the same thing. That would be a choice that you were making, you the player. The protagonist's choices in Persona 3 feel like they belong to the protagonist and not just the player because of the way that the game treats its protagonist. The ending of Persona 3, actually, without regards to the ending, there is a character in Persona 3, no spoilers. Actually, yeah, spoilers. Spoilers for Persona 3. The protagonist's character is very evident through other characters' thoughts and feelings about them and the way they talk about them, etc., etc. But it's especially true when you bring in the fact that there is a character whose entire existence relies on the fact that they learned their humanity. Actually, that's true of multiple characters, technically. But they learn their humanity through existing within the protagonist, right? So you see aspects of this character, and it's very evident that the impact of the protagonist is beyond what the player chooses or even what the player sees. Because it is impossible. Well, the stage play for Persona 3 has this character specifically say the words, "I love all of you, I hope you can forgive me for that," right? I love each and every one of you, I hope you can forgive me for that. That's a direct quote from this character, right? You can't have a character who has directly manifested and copied their humanity from the protagonist say something like that and not have it reflect onto the characterization of the protagonists themselves. And that also does directly relate to how the game ends. The characters would not take those actions. Your eyes are gigantic. My girl, why are they You're like a bug. It looked fine in the sketch, but it does not look fine now. The protagonist's actions at the end of the game, the choice that they make there, it works in general as a game ending thematically. It fits that the game has been warning you that was going to happen from the very beginning. It's the memento mori is literally pasted throughout the game everywhere in the opening of the original Persona 3 at least. It's right there. Remember you will die. So thematically, a game focusing on death, the way that the game ends and the choice you make to avoid everyone dying, right? The way that it manifests makes perfect sense. However, it's only possible because the protagonists are portrayed the way they are, because they have the characters that they do, in spite of the fact that they are vessels for the player. They are very much their own characters, and that is very evident because you can't have a character who learns so much of themselves from this character do the things that they do, and then say that that doesn't reflect what the protagonist themselves is and the kind of character that they are. Because obviously, in order for this character to end up this way, it would mean that the protagonist was also this way. The protagonist was also this full of this aspect of themselves. I keep trying to avoid saying it, but I've already kind of said it. A spoiler for Persona 3. It's ending. So let's just say it's very crucial to the characterization that the game gives the protagonists, either version of them, that it is impossible to ignore the fact that a character like Ryoji is so full of affection for other people. Let's just say that, as the stage play puts it, full of love specifically for other people, all of them, that it directly impacts the characterization of either protagonist, because that humanity and that feeling was learned from somewhere, and the place it was learned from very evidently is the protagonist. That's the person who, at the end of this game, saves everyone in an act of sacrifice, right? And if you want to call it that, that character is the reason that the character that's specifically supposed to be the manifestation of death itself is able to be so capable of loving other people. It reflects directly on both of them that the person who wants to save everyone and the person who does, in fact, save everyone is the person who taught an incarnation of death to love those people in the first place. In a way that is incredibly human, right? I think That alone displays how much the protagonists, specifically in this case of Persona 3, are characters in their own right, because this wouldn't be possible if they were just a vessel for the player. It wouldn't work if they were just a vessel for the player, because you might not be. There is no guarantee that the player will feel or act or believe the same things that the main character does. That's just not possible in all cases. There will be a lot of people who play the game and disagree heavily with the way that the protagonist acts, with the choices the protagonist makes outside of the player's choices. These things will happen regardless of the player, and because of that, the protagonist has to have some established character, or else then it just feels like you've been forced into a situation that you wouldn't have made the choices to get here. You wouldn't have ended up in this way, right? But it doesn't matter if you wouldn't have, the protagonist would. Which means that the protagonist needs to have a character that makes that the logical leap that you would take. Because if you go into Persona 3 thinking that you are the only thing deciding the character of this protagonist, it's going to directly fight you on that every step of the way. Because the protagonist has very clearly characterization that is not a part, that is not an aspect of their character made to be a vessel for a player. It can't be, because you don't get a choice in this aspect of them. You don't get to decide if they believe that this is worthwhile. They believe that this is the way that they should live their life, or that this is the way they should choose to interact with other people. Like, yes, you can impact some of this stuff. You can impact if they're nice, or if they are an asshole, or if they say they don't care about this, or if they use the dialogue options that are optimistic, which gets more likely in one route and less likely in the other, which directly shows that the characters do in fact have separate characterization. These two protagonists don't just look different, and they're not just a male and female option. They are different characters. That's been reproven in Persona Q, where they have characterization that you make absolutely no choices on, because it is out of your control. You are not choosing their dialogue options anymore. So you don't have any say in the kind of character that they are in those games, and that makes it far more evident, if it wasn't already, based on everything else about them, that they are their own characters. However, you don't need the side games to prove any of that, because it's obvious from the outset. You look at the way that they pose in their character art or the dialogue options in game, because while you do get to make choices, those choices are different based on which one of the protagonists you're playing as, because they react differently to those situations, which is why when you're playing as the female main character near the end of the game, those dialogue options get more heavy versus being more optimistic over time in the other one. Those are things that you have absolutely no impact on as a player. You can make a choice between the options you're given. The options themselves are proof that these characters have their own character, for lack of a better word. They are their own people. I think I've said probably enough, too much about the protagonists and how they are actually characters, but I think that's important so that I can say that I love both of them as characters, and people can be like, no, they're barely characters, they're just player inserts. They're not. They are, in fact, their own characters. They are their own people, regardless. And on that note, I want to say something about Persona 3. Because I'm done talking about how the Persona 3 protagonists are their own characters. We've established that. We all know. The thing I want to say about them. Once again, the sketch looks so much better than the finished line art. The thing I want to say about them that I think is important is that how do I say this? I think for Persona 3's themes, they both work very well in very different ways. Here's my thing. There was no reason. I know they wanted to make it very clear that the female main character is a different character and isn't just a female version of the original Persona 3 protagonist. That's fine. I think the thing that bothers me with Portable, and the thing that will always bother me with Portable, because I will continue to, for the rest of my life, think that this was a bad choice. There was no reason to make Persona. Okay, y'all okay out there? That was going to be an alarm, but it was just beeping, just horn honking. It didn't need to be pink. Okay, Persona 3 Portable, the FFC root and the overlays and everything, they did not need to be pink. It doesn't make any sense. The only reason that they are pink is because she's a girl. That's it. There was no reason for this to be the case. I will stay angry about this for the rest of my life. Persona 3's blue color palette, and the reason that the protagonist is so blue in the first place, blue color wise, not character wise, the reason that they're so blue in the first place. Drawing and talking is really hard. I motion too much with my hands, even though you can't see it. The reason that it was blue in the first place was not because the main character was all boy. That had nothing to do with it, right? Personas 4 and 5 don't have blue themes because the main color palettes of those games are directly reflective of the theme and atmosphere of the game. The same is true of the other games, actually. Everything, including 3, the only thing that doesn't fit that is Persona 3 Portable's female main character route. FemC's route did not need to have pink as a theme. Choose a different shade of blue, I guess. Choose a different color outright. Something that fits. Pink has absolutely nothing. It adds nothing thematically. The only reason it's pink is because she's a girl. It doesn't need to be pink. Obviously, okay, you don't want it to be blue, right? Because you don't want it to be the same color, right? You want them to have their own color scheme, overlays, and you've already made the male protagonist blue, so just make the female protagonist pink, right? It's fine. People will accept that. She's got red and, well, it's like brown, really. But like a reddish brown. It's fine. She's got red, right? So really, what is pink but light red? You can do that. It's fine. The problem is that blue wasn't the color because of the main character. The main character was blue because the color was thematically resonant with the somber atmosphere of Persona 3. Pink doesn't do this. Pink does not work. I'm unnecessarily so upset about it to this day. It bothers me so much that they made it pink exclusively because the character is a girl and it has nothing to impact. It has no reason to be that color thematically. It doesn't suit the themes. It doesn't suit the atmosphere. It actively goes against the way that the game sets up the tone and atmosphere because it does not need to be pink. There's no reason for it to be pink. Now, you want it to be a different color. Choose a different shade of blue. Or, here's an idea, don't make her red. Right? She couldn't. They wanted her, obviously, to not just look like a female version of the protagonist. You didn't have to make her red. You didn't have to make her pink. You did not have to do that. You could have made her any other color. And you could have made it a color that directly correlates with the game. Otherwise, you could have made it green. In color scheme, I don't think I can try it now, actually. You'd have to change more about her to make it green, right? But, I mean green color-wise. You can perfectly well make her UI green, and it would directly correlate with an aspect of the game, because that's the main color reflected in the dark hour. So it would fit the way that Persona 3 looks. The thematic aspects of it are directly reflected because the dark hour is so crucial, and it wouldn't just be pink for the sake of being pink because she's a girl. I feel like I'm the only person in the world who's upset about this. And everyone else, like, it's not that serious, right? It's that serious to me. I love pink. It's a great color. look at me. But I love pink. It's fine. But there was no reason. There was no reason to make her pink. Okay. She didn't need to be pink. That's all I'm saying. It didn't have to be like this. It shouldn't have been like this. In fact, they made her pink because she was a girl. That was it. They didn't have to. They didn't have to do that. They did it purely because she's a female protagonist. They went, yes, we can make her pink. It's fine. They didn't do that to Maya. Did they? I don't remember. I mean, two's color scheme is already slightly. That's beside the point. Two's color scheme is irrelevant. Am I more mad about this than I should be? Yes. However, I feel like it's a detriment to Persona 3 Portable. I genuinely think it's a detriment that her UI is a different color. And a color that does not fit the atmosphere. It's not a red or a pink that aids that feeling, that aids the feeling of somberness that resonates throughout Persona 3, or melancholy. It doesn't do that because it wasn't meant to, because it was not chosen with any regards to any aspect of Persona 3 other than that the protagonist was a girl and they didn't want her to be blue because they didn't want, I don't know, people to think that she was just the male protagonist. What a girl. She is a completely different character, which I think is great. I think it's a great thing that she is her own character. I love her character. The problem is that in trying to do that, they didn't put any thought into the reason that the game looked the way it did in the first place. If they had just made her the protagonist and given her a different color, nothing would have changed, right? It wouldn't have changed any aspect of her character or of her route to make it a different color that more accurately suited the themes and atmosphere of Persona 3. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. You can disagree. That's fine. We're mature enough to disagree on this point, but you're wrong. We disagree with the pink being a problem. I get it. Nobody else cares. I care because I'm obsessed with the protagonist, and I think it's a detriment to her that you treated her root UI like it was just there for the sake of being. You treated her root like the UI and stuff was only important in as much as it could separate her from her male counterpart instead of being. I should just copy and read so they're the same place. instead of being an aspect of this suits the game and it suits her as a protagonist, because it doesn't. Because it wasn't meant to. It wasn't meant to reflect on her. It was meant to separate her from her counterpart instead of being for her as a character or for the game thematically. Well, I've got one more hour lesson, and I have not even finished the line art on either of them. I just... we don't need to look at that. So, I probably won't finish these outright. Or I'll finish them Friday on that stream, and I'll have a more... wow, that line could not have been more fucked up. I will have a more cohesive stream, but it's not funny, Alan. You might get it together. Also, for the record, my love of Persona 3 does directly impact my VTuber lore and name. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie about it. Oh my god, please. Fine, I'll draw from this line, it's fine. So instead of spending the next hour continuing to rant about why I don't think pink was a good choice, I'm right. I will instead talk about something else, Persona 3 related. Reload looks incredibly good. I'm going to say something controversial. Neither the Reload or dancing models look better than the other. They're both good. Y'all are fighting for no reason. They are just different art styles that is not reflective of the quality of the models. They are both well made. They are both good models. Stop fighting over nothing. There's nothing wrong with the dancing models, and there is equally nothing really wrong with the Reload models. I do think in a few scenes their faces look really long. I said that this was specifically with a shot of the protagonist. In one of the trailers where I was like, boy, why is your face so long? But besides that, the models are fine. And honestly, that was more because of the camera angle and stuff. So it's fine. Like, it's not a big deal. It only matters to me. But like the Persona 3 dancing models are good. They're very pretty. They are not bad just because the Reload models are new and shiny and soft and have details because they are more details in places specifically as a reflection of the fact that they are in a different art style. Right? The models are good. Y'all are fighting for no reason. What a pointless argument to have. But on that note, Persona 3 Dancing is the best dancing game. Just because I think, except for the one Mass Destruction remix, it's got the best remixes. And also, probably just because I think the choreography is my favorite. Just in general. gonna spend the whole time talking about the whole next hour talking about dancing, although I could talk about how there's some really, really good stuff thematically in the choreography. Unfortunately, there's also so much of, especially in the partner dancing, people just not caring that they have partners. And just straight up giving up on trying to dance with their partners. And by some people, I mean Akihiko. Also Fuka. I don't know why she's like that. If you've watched Crystal's videos on the partner choreography, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know why they're like that. She watched the full live streams of that. It's very interesting. I'm not a dancer, but I do like the thematic aspects of the dancing games, specifically 3 and 5. Sorry, 4, you got a story mode, but they couldn't justify that for the others, so they're just like, yeah, it's a dream. Deal with it. I am a firm believer in the 3 and 5 actually take place at the same time. The dancing games, not the actual games, obviously. The actual games are not the same. But I think the dancing games do, because you can dream. You can dream from anywhere. And yes, the characters directly act as if they have not aged at all, but they have outfits from the future that they don't have. And also, hear me out, if you're in a dream, you typically just like know and believe things that aren't inherently true to real life. I have plenty of dreams in which I'm completely a different person, and I'm never like, this isn't me. I'm always like, yeah, this is the person I have always been. And then I wake up and I'm like, that's not correct. So it would be perfectly reasonable for Persona 3 dancing to actually take place after the fact. But also explain the opening song's lyrics. Not that they need explanation, they're obviously for the sake of us, not the characters. They don't know. They don't know that we're back, but that would also be true if they were having a dream in which they were still in high school, so that they wouldn't freak out at the fact that one of their dead friends is there. But also, I just think it would make Persona 3 dancing more interesting. It's plenty interesting, actually. I think Persona 3 dancing Moonlight taking place at the same time as 5. 1 justifies the fact that they directly reference each other. And so you're not just like, are the Velvet Room attendants time traveling? It's like, yeah, technically, time travel is canonically possible in the Persona series because of the Q games, but it'd probably be for the best if that was not the case with Persona 3 dancing. I don't think we need to involve time travel in the dancing games. Well, and to be fair, yeah, like, that doesn't actually make it less convoluted. The dancing game's justification is sans 4, which is a whole different thing. Not the best aspect of it, but I still think if Persona 3 Dancing and 5 take place at the same time, it makes them a lot less annoying to try and like justify, right? As games within each other, with relation to each other, rather. These lines should probably be bigger, huh? Oh, I made a mistake. There we go. Maybe not that big. I'm gonna draw this on a different layer to make it easier. To make it easier, yep. So put it underneath so I don't have to worry about it. I think I said I was going to spend the whole time talking about the dancing games. Maybe I will. I think it would be interesting from the perspective of these characters aren't going to remember that this happened, right? They aren't going to know. However, they don't need to, right? Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything for them. At the end of the day, nothing in their real life is going to change after this. God, that doesn't look right. Nothing in their real life is going to change. They just get this experience. It's a nice dream. And then they wake up. So there's no reason it couldn't be. And I say this, I don't think that the dream aspect means that if this was the case, that the protagonist is somehow not real. I just want to point that out. The protagonist is still themselves. I don't think there's any reason to treat that as if it wouldn't be the case. In a dream, you can dream from where they are, I'm sure. Why not? You know? We're presuming that they're, at least sort of conscious in there. In as much as, or at least exist there. Because otherwise, Elizabeth's goal would be ultimately pointless. So in that case, we have to accept. But if that's the case, they have to be able to dream from there, right? Or at least you can theoretically say that. I say they. It's only the one of them. This is not big enough. It's only the one of them. But I think it just makes the most sense, right? It just makes the most sense. Oops, that's the wrong line. Also, oh, I'm a fool. So yeah, that's I think Persona 3 dancing should take place at the same time as 5 rant. Besides dancing, I think Q2 really missed an opportunity because they have canonicized the two protagonists as both existing just from different timelines. They really missed the opportunity to not bring the main character completely by herself and then act like everyone would just accept that they have a bond with her, that they feel innately, in spite of the fact that they never met. However, I do think Q2 does a really smart thing in basically saying you're no less important and no less quote unquote, and they don't use the word, but quote unquote canon because of this, because you're not the version of them that they know, because you're not their leader, right? She's still important. She still has value, which is another thing I complained that Reload then said, but she's not. We don't care. We're not bringing her back, right? It's like, well, then what was the point, right? Her whole story in Q2 is that she is just as important, right? That's the whole thing. She is just as important, and yet get so much closer, and yet then why is she not? Reload, why is she not important then, right? I've almost run out of things different. It's fine. Oh god, the line art's too clean, right? The sketch looks. Why does she look like that? Sometimes I should just draw over the color over the sketch. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I use this layer, a sketch, in addition to overlaying it. However, no matter what I do, I am going to have to color under the normal lines. There's gonna be so many little gaps that this just refuses to fill. Medibang's very good at that. It's fine. I can fix this. Don't look too much at that. Oh, this thing. It's done it again. It keeps resetting. It used to keep my settings and it be at expand 1, and then it no longer does that. It just refuses to do, and I don't know why. It used to stay at that, and so I was so used to just doing it, no regards to that, and now it doesn't. I don't know why it has forsaken me. Anyway, I said I was done being annoyed about Reload because I keep talking about it and it sounds like I'm not, excited. I'm not hyped about Reload. I am. I'm very excited. We're a month away. I'm really, really looking forward to Reload. I probably won't be able to actually play it myself. I don't have anything that can run it. I can't afford it, but that's besides the point. The point being, I can be excited about Reload and still have things that I'm not happy about. And I am specifically not happy about the answer. I know I've talked quite a bit about Femsi. My thing is, I understand that she would be basically creating a whole second game, right? Because they're social links and stuff. However, just do it. How about you? I don't think it would actually. Here's the thing. You would have to give her complete new animations. You would have to make new cutscenes, which is why I'm probably in the minority here. I think I am. Of people who think that they should just fully commit to this, to the three, to this 3D cutscenes using the models. Maybe, you know, with more lighting and stuff that the game doesn't. More lighting effects, more details the game doesn't normally run on. But with Persona 5, I am a person who firmly and fully believes that Persona 5's 3D cutscenes, like the Persona Awakenings and stuff, are better than the 2D ones, the 2D animations. There's nothing bad about the 2D animations. They're good, you know? I just think the dissonance between them is too much. I think I think it was fine in 3 and 4 where the models were so small and low res. There was no way to do that without making a whole new set of models. 5 has models. 5 has models in gameplay that can be worked into cutscenes without it feeling really low quality. And because of that, it gets away with it, right? And because of that, Persona 5, the 3D cuts, it can have 3D cutscenes, right? You can have scenes that are using the models, and it isn't a problem. It doesn't look bad. They, in fact, look really good. What becomes the thing is that makes it very jarring, to me specifically, when we switch to the animated cutscenes. No matter how good the animation is, and it is very good, it feels incredibly out of place. I don't think this is always the case, and I'm sure plenty of people don't feel like it's jarring at all. I just think that there's no reason at this point to have the animated scenes. To have the 2D animation, it's unnecessary. If you like them, that's fine. Understandable. Have a good day. But that does not mean that they are necessary, because they aren't. I don't think they're necessary. I don't think they make the game feel any better. They take me right out. They break my immersion so much because they are so not what the game it has been up until that point. Like, yeah, it's an anime style game. You know, I know what Persona is. However, it being that is not the same as having actual 2D animated scenes in it, and those scenes don't they don't have to be there. That's all I'm saying. You already have all the models. There's none of the scenes in which the models don't already exist. And in 5, those models look really good. So my point is, you could absolutely have the cutscenes be exclusively the 3D scenes, exclusively be made with that intent, and then you would be able to have the female protagonist without having to make any new cutscenes. You would have to record occasional changes to dialogue. Now, that's a little bit more because everything is fully voiced now. However, my thing with that is there's no reason why you can't have the characters say them, instead of him, and you've solved that problem. Not to give credit to a gacha game, even though I think the story-wise it's very good. Oh, that is here. There we go. But Star Rail doesn't. Where the protagonist is sometimes referred to by he, him, or she, her, and then sometimes referred to as they, them, so that it's easier. They don't have to record as many lines. You could do that easily. And even if you don't want to, that's a reflection of not wanting the female protagonist in the game, right? Because if that was the way in which you could include her and you don't, then it is directly that you just don't want to. Which is fine. They said they were remaking the original Persona 3, which completely defeats the purpose of why we wanted a remake in the first place. But that's besides the point. Which is that it would be possible. And not only would it be possible, it would not objectively be that much more, right? It would be a little bit more. I'm not underplaying how much work would have to go into it programming wise and animation wise to have to do that multiple times, for multiple protagonists. However, they could, right? The point isn't it would be easy, so they should have just done it. The point isn't they could have done it, so why didn't they? I understand why they didn't. I still think it was a missed opportunity. In fact, I think it was not only a missed opportunity, but directly, it's annoying. It is directly a slight against the people who this whole time, no, that's correct. This whole time have been asking for a remake of Persona 3 so that we could have a definitive version of this game, and they have said no. Because they don't want to deal with the answer. They don't want to deal with trying to fix the problem with the answer, which sucks because I think the answer thematically was incredibly good for Persona 3 story. You can disagree. You're allowed to be wrong. I think the answer was good for Persona 3 story. Thematically, it ties up some loose ends. Yes, technically, you can have this game without that, and it's fine. The original Persona 3 existed. My thing with that is that I think Persona 3 is better with the answer than it was without. Because the ending of that game, the ending of the answer, while the answer story gets a lot of flack for how it plays out up into the point in which the ending happens, I think that the answer is... Why does this not seem dark now? Oh. The answer's story is good in the way that it ties into Persona 3's general story. Or rather, specifically how it ties into its themes and the ending, and how these characters are dealing with that. And if you say that it ruined the characters, you didn't understand what the answer was doing. Genuinely. The only character I think you can make that argument for at any conceivable way is Mitsuru. But even then, I don't think it hurts her character too much. I think it still works. So, not including the female protagonist makes sense. Not including the answer also makes sense, but I don't think they should have done it. On that note, it's the end of my stream. I spent all that time ranting about it. I never actually got to my point with regards to how they could have implemented the female protagonist without it causing any problems. YouTube Studio froze again. There we go. With regards to how they could do that without causing any problems, I still think they could have. I think it would have been, in fact, pretty easy. But I can continue that discussion on Friday. Any more formatted setting? Again, Friday, 8 a.m. PST. I don't know what that is in other time zones. 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 a.m. EST, right? It's 3 hours different. I've frozen again. VTube Studio, please. My eyes are not that close. I don't know why it's like that. Anyway, that's it. I'm done ranting about Persona 3 for today. Watch out, I'll keep doing it. And maybe at some point someone will want me to watch it. But this stream will stay up so somebody can see it in the future and see how unhinged and obsessive I am about Persona 3. Obviously, if you saw any aspect of my lore video, which the animation is done and it's posted to Tumblr, Memory of Moonlight, but it is not finished as far as the actual video goes, because it needs narration and stuff. At any rate, if you've seen that, it's probably obvious that how much I love Persona 3 and the aspects of that are pretty obviously there. But Persona 3 also has just a lot of stuff I like in other pieces of media. So, stream's over. That's it. Goodbye.